After receiving my diagnosis, I returned to training. I did what I could and eventually my movements came back, even if I didn't feel great. It got me thinking, what are the best ways to help me cope? And how much of a difference would they make? I brought you to my home in London. I'm going to show you what I get up to when I come back from a busy day, but first, let's get something to eat. Today I'm going to show you a go-to meal that I would make. Now, diet, I feel, has made a massive impact in my recovery from relapsing, remitting MS, and also a lot of people that have MS manage their relapses through diet. So I'm going to show you the kind of healthy foods, the group of foods that I would have in a meal. Today we're going to have some pan-seared salmon with olive oil. You only want to leave the salt in there for about 10 minutes, and we're just going to top it with a little bit of pepper. One of the reasons that I flew back home early from Oregon, so when I had my last relapse, was I knew I needed to have the right foods to help my body recover, so I would make dishes like this. Let's add some variety to our salads. I'm going to add half a lemon. I'm just going to cool down the quinoa so it's ready to mix into the salad. While the fish is cooking, we're going to sear the broccoli. Now, chickpeas is a legume, and legumes are great for an anti-inflammatory diet. Broccoli should be done. You just want to see a little bit of a darker green. Okay, I think that's ready. It's so pretty. That's my lunch. We're here at the MS Society in London to talk to Dr. Sarah Rawlings, Executive Director of Research and External Affairs here. And we're going to chat to her about how the MS Society is helping to support people with MS. How do you think MS is perceived by the general public? How do you think we can change that, and is representation an important step towards that?
Because MS affects everybody so differently, no two people's symptoms are the same, and because so many of those symptoms are hidden as well, I think lots of people really don't understand MS and what it actually means to live with MS on a daily basis, which is why raising awareness is so important.
For a lot of people that have MS, myself included, deciding a course of treatment to go on can be extremely overwhelming, and there's so much information out there. What resources do the MS Society have to, help you or support you in deciding the big decision that you have with MS?
It can be hugely overwhelming. There are over a dozen licensed treatments for relapse in MS. Some are starting to emerge for progressive forms of MS as well. But what treatment you might like to think about varies from person to person depending on a whole host of different things. At the MS Society, we've actually developed something called the DMT tool, Disease Modifying Treatment Tool, which it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. People can go onto our website, answer a whole range of different questions about them, and then what the tool will say is, well, we suggest that you might want to look at these treatments, go and talk to them about them with your healthcare professional, but here's what some of the options might be for you. There are nurses available on the helpline as well to answer medical questions. You might need benefits advice, or just have some concerns that you'd like to talk through with somebody, and thousands of people call the helpline every year, and we really want to be here for everybody affected by MS.
One thing that I've always believed in my recovery from relapses is the power of movement. I ended up going all the way to India to get a yoga teacher qualification to be able to teach myself all different types of movement. The first one I like to do, I feel like it switches on the whole body. It's called bird dog. So we go into tabletop, which is a great intro pose for a lot of yoga poses. You're going to extend one leg behind you. Imagine as if though there's a teacup balancing on your back, so you're trying to not let that tea spill either way. You're super flat table. So you're going to extend that leg, and then you're going to extend the opposite arm, and this means that you're balancing on one knee and one hand, and you're just going to hold it there. Lie down. Another kind of check or movement that I would do to my body is neural flosses. So extend one arm out to the side, and this targets the median nerve, which goes down the right bicep. Drop the shoulder, and you can feel this already. You can feel this kind of electric kind of signal going down the nerve. And then you would just start to bend your neck down to the left. And imagine as if though this nerve kind of stretches from the neck all the way down to the tip of your fingers or middle finger. and you can almost feel as if it's being stretched, which is weird for a nerve to do, but that's what neuroflossers do. Spin, spin. I always like to put in some balances in my yoga routine, so I'm just going to show you the simplest balance of all is to go from a low lunge to a high lunge. So we're just going to bring one foot to the front of the mat, and from here you're just going to lift your hands up. You're going to wobble a little bit, feet go from one side to the other, and just come into a higher lunge. Good boy. That's my favourite one. Matthew Embry has spent his whole life learning how to manage MS by using diet and exercise.
So I was diagnosed in 1995. So that's 27 years ago now. I was actually kicking a basketball in the basement and suddenly couldn't really feel the ball that well. It was a combination of numbness and hypersensitivity, very hard to explain. And then that feeling went up from my foot all the way up into my chest within about 20 minutes. So it was a fairly dramatic neurological symptom.
There's one kind of sensitive topic I'd like to ask you about. How long have you been in remission or relapse-free?
27 years.
Crazy, isn't it? 27 years. One of the things I noticed was the perception of me was, well, she's not in a wheelchair. Why doesn't she go to the Paralympics and stuff like that?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it was the flip side, which I'm not saying it's the bad side, but there's a whole part that people are missing, and I think we're not seeing enough of those success stories, and I think part of that is fear of sharing. It is a very personal journey that people with MS go through, but also we're just not seeing enough of that side. I look back at how I was when I was 18, you know, you might resonate when you were 19, like looking for the resources, looking for like hope and just any information that you can get. So one of the things that I'm asking people, or that I want to ask people, is what advice would you give to someone who is newly diagnosed with MS?
Don't assume that help is on the way. There's access to information today that we you know, was impossible 10, 20 years ago. And you've got to curate your resources properly. And that's what we try to do with mshope.com, and find the successful people and get a hold of them.
Yeah, reach out to us on Instagram. What works for Matthew doesn't mean it will work for you. I would advise anyone to seek medical help as soon as they find out that they have MS. Since filming, I've won silver at the British Athletics Championships. I'm not defined by MS, and there is knowledge, research and tools out there to improve the lives of people like me. I'm Lina Nielsen, and this is my story so far.